My life was ordinary: work, home, family, and in general, I didn't need anything. My wife and I have come a long way. We have had ups and downs. I admired her for being with me. But I did not even suspect that going to the championship together would change my life so much that I would almost lose everything I had been going for all these years. I was aware that my wife had a penchant for the extravagant lifestyle, but it never crossed my mind that she would eventually leave me for a wealthy young athlete. I trusted her completely, offering her the most sincere and precious love that others can only dream of. Unfortunately, she failed to appreciate everything I had done for her and resorted to infidelity with a wealthier young man. It's perplexing how women can change their affections seemingly overnight. One moment they love you for who you are, and the next, they are enamored with someone else based on material wealth. I invested so much love and care into our relationship, assuming that she would be mine forever. I never anticipated that she would redirect all the love I gave her to someone who wasn't even family. It was a harsh lesson, but life goes on. I've come to realize that it's wiser to approach relationships with a level-headed perspective, using affection and love cautiously. Once a heart is broken, repairing it is no easy feat. Reflecting on my own experience, I recall meeting this amazing, lively, and respectful woman when I was 32. This happened several years ago when I was in my second year of studying philosophy and science at the university. Back then, I was engrossed in my studies, known as a bit of a nerd for my passion for science and philosophy. My wife, who was 30 at the time, was pursuing marketing studies at Boston College, conveniently close to my student accommodation. Our initial encounter was less than ideal. In my rush to class one day, I accidentally bumped into her, causing her to spill coffee on herself and my books, containing crucial assignments. Instead of apologizing, I placed the blame on her and left her there. A week passed with guilt gnawing at me, prompting me to seek her out and make amends. Spotting her at a fast food restaurant, I approached her table, apologized for my earlier behavior, and expressed a genuine desire to make it up to her. She initially resisted, but eventually, she agreed to let me apologize properly and replace her ruined shirt on a Saturday. This marked the beginning of our friendship. As we spent time together, exploring San Francisco and enjoying each other's company, I discovered the beauty of the city and the pleasures of life outside my usual routine of books and science labs. Our friendship blossomed, and I learned about her intelligence and business aspirations, including her dream of owning a marketing agency. Months passed and our bond deepened. Her friends even complained about her neglecting them, but she remained unfazed. She broadened my perspective on life, emphasizing that there's more to experience beyond academic pursuits. During an indoor picnic as friends, an accidental kiss changed the dynamics of our relationship. While unintended, it set the stage for a more profound connection. I had desired to kiss her ever since the day we went to the mall, and surprisingly, she kissed me back. From there, things escalated quickly, and before I knew it, we were passionately kissing, and our clothes ended up on the floor. I hadn't anticipated her reaction. Although she was lively and carefree, I didn't think she would be open to such intimacy. Despite that unexpected turn, we continued engaging in such activities sporadically for about 2 months without defining our connection. It was merely a physical relationship. Eventually, I initiated a conversation about how we labeled our encounters. To my surprise, she questioned why I referred to it as mere sex moments. In her view, we were already boyfriend and girlfriend. I hadn't received that memo, but I was relieved when she suggested transitioning into a formal relationship instead of just being friends. Our relationship progressed smoothly, despite disapproval from her friends. I appreciated that she wasn't ashamed of me, and our connection deepened each day. Being a self-proclaimed nerd, I found solace in her understanding of my passions, often accompanying me to historical sites. She cared for me in various ways, like surprising me with home-cooked meals when I hadn't eaten. My love for her grew stronger as we dated for a year until we decided to elevate our relationship. During that time, I secured an internship as an assistant professor in philosophy, a step towards my dream career as a political scientist. The financial stability allowed me to get my own place and propose to Rachel, who had moved in with me. 2 months after moving in, she started her own social media marketing platform, thriving in her career. Proud of her accomplishments, I proposed, and she gladly accepted. As she managed her social media marketing responsibilities, I admired her dedication and love for taking care of me. Our relationship flourished, and she became an integral part of my family. Despite her family being in Brazil and our busy lives, we managed to connect with them through Skype. 9 months later, we decided to have a low-key wedding with close friends and family. I invited a few colleagues, considering my brothers as my closest friends. Little did I know that this seemingly perfect life would lead me into a deceptive and unfaithful situation. 5 years later, with Rachel running her successful marketing agency and our son on the way, life took a turn. Balancing parenthood with our busy careers led us to hire a stay-at-home nanny, and frequent travel became a norm. As life unfolded, I realized the changes that had occurred in those 5 years. Rachel excelled in her career, and we welcomed our firstborn son with joy and love. However, unforeseen challenges lay ahead, revealing the complexities of our seemingly perfect life. Being occupied with various commitments, the years passed swiftly. Our son grew, and 2 years after his birth, we welcomed twins into our family. Each day, our family expanded and strengthened, accompanied by a steady flow of income that brought happiness. One day, the opportunity to attend the Olympic Games in Tokyo arose, prompting us to embark on a family vacation. It was a delightful experience spending quality time together, particularly watching basketball games, as I am a devoted fan of the sport. My background as a political scientist proved beneficial when we secured VIP seats, and my wife seized the chance to promote her agency, propelling her business to new heights. The basketball game concluded with the emergence of a talented player from Canada, displaying remarkable skills and unwavering passion. Although not ranked among the best, he stood out as the greatest in my eyes. After the game, while greeting players and coaches, I noticed a peculiar interaction between my wife and the young athlete. Their exchanged glances raised a hint of discomfort and jealousy within me, unsure if I was reading too much into the situation. Despite my love for my wife, I couldn't bear the thought of any man eyeing her inappropriately. Upon returning from Tokyo, a shift occurred in our household. Rachel became engrossed in her phone, neglecting our children even when the nanny was absent. On one occasion, I arrived home to find smoke filling the house, discovering that Rachel had burned the dinner due to her preoccupation. Expressing concerns about her being an absent parent, she became defensive, asserting her own busyness and the children's familial connections. The tension escalated, prompting me to move our children to my family's house. Months later, as Rachel's behavior persisted and she resisted counseling, I grew anxious about the precarious state of our marriage. Fearing its potential collapse, I resorted to unconventional means, seeking help from a friend with computer expertise to hack into my wife's phone. Recognizing the invasion of privacy, I acknowledged it as a last resort to uncover the truth behind her changed behavior. Security codes made it challenging to access Rachel's devices, but with the help of a friend, I managed to uncover some shocking discoveries. I believed I knew my wife, having thought I made a wise choice in marriage. However, it became evident that I was mistaken. The revelation that she was engaged in flirtatious interactions, including sharing explicit content with a much younger basketball player, left me stunned. The emotional impact was profound as I grappled with the realization that the athlete involved was a minor, 10 years younger than my wife. The unethical nature of her actions deeply disgusted me. The fact that she didn't consider the potential consequences for our family and her business, given her successful marketing agency, intensified my anger. My investigation, aided by a friend, unveiled that they shared moments together after an Olympic game in Tokyo, during which I was left at a guest house with our children. The changes in her behavior upon our return were indicative of a significant shift in our relationship. Further revelations exposed the athlete as the youngest and wealthiest basketball player in Canada. In my professional context, what Rachel engaged in with the young man was considered reprehensible, as adults should not engage intimately with minors, particularly with such a substantial age gap. The discovery shattered my confidence as a man, leading me to question my role in our marriage. I harbored a sense of betrayal and a desire for retribution against both Rachel and the athlete. However, I chose to remain silent for a few weeks, hoping for a change. During this period, I discreetly monitored Rachel's activities through a bug planted on her phone. When I attempted to rejuvenate our marriage by preparing a special dinner, she returned late, providing a feeble excuse about work. Suspicious of her prolonged absence, I observed that she had been at a hotel for an extended period, contrary to her usual client meetings. Realizing that I couldn't salvage the relationship, I focused on being a present parent for my children, spending more time at the family house. Rachel continued her rendezvous at the hotel, prompting me to eventually follow her. Witnessing her affectionate behavior with the young athlete pushed me to confront the situation. I encountered them, and one thing that caught my attention was the intense glare my wife directed at me. She looked at me with so much animosity in her eyes, and the spark that used to be present when she looked at me was absent. She seemed like a completely different person, and I struggled to find words to describe it. She questioned my presence there, expressing embarrassment and disbelief. The woman in front of me was unrecognizable. She instructed me to go home and never attempt to find her again, treating me as if I were one of our children. It dawned on me that I had lost her, my wife, but she wasn't going to leave without a fight. A week later, our family lawyer called, summoning me to her office. There I was handed an envelope containing divorce papers filed by my wife. She had discarded our 10 years of marriage for a younger athlete she had met a year ago. Life can be unexpectedly harsh to those who respect it. Imagine losing someone you've been married to for 10 years, and the worst thing is not losing them to someone your age, but to someone 10 years younger. It seems unfair and makes you doubt their value. This often leads people to drink alcohol, become depressed, or even commit sins because of the problems they face in marriage. Marriage opinions vary. Some advocate for marrying young to have a lifetime to understand one's partner, while others argue that marrying older allows for sufficient time to learn about the person. However, I view marriage as an underrated scam where one party often suffers at the hands of the other. Personally, I can't envision getting married again, having learned the hard way. I refused to sign the divorce papers, as doing so would mean she'd be entitled to 50% of my possessions. I sought legal intervention to fight for my assets. I couldn't let someone who violated their vows walk away freely with almost everything I had worked hard for. While I would also get 50% of what she owned, her share was significantly smaller than my accomplishments. I contemplated taking everything she owned and leaving her with only 20%, considering the injustice I felt. I discovered she had changed her phone numbers, signifying her desire to sever ties completely. However, I couldn't let her win, especially with my children's inheritance at stake. I tracked down her new number and called her anonymously. Surprisingly, she didn't recognize my voice, indicating that she had erased me from her mind. Determined not to let her win, I arranged a meeting with her at a nearby cafe. It struck me how easily she agreed without questioning the reason for the meetup. During our encounter, she almost caused unnecessary drama, but I managed to calm her down, tapping into my knowledge of the buttons to press. I reminded myself of the importance of conducting background checks before entering a relationship to avoid such surprises. 2 days later, I met up with Rachel, and despite initial tension, I managed to diffuse the situation. I reminded her of our history as husband and wife, hoping to convey that, despite everything, I still cared for her as the mother of my children. This experience led me to vow never to enter a relationship without thoroughly investigating the person's background to prevent similar surprises in the future. My spouse requested my signature on the divorce documents to set her free. She proposed that I receive 75% of her company while she retains the remaining 25%. However, the situation escalated when she started hurling insults, claiming I would only get my share when she was no longer around. Despite my intention to negotiate calmly and civilly, she opted for a confrontational approach. In an attempt to bring reason into the discussion, I presented incriminating pictures and videos of her with a young boy, obtained through a friend's phone hacking skills. Astonished by the compelling evidence, she initially dismissed it as photoshopped. I clarified that further discussion was futile, and we would settle matters in court during the divorce proceedings. Despite my lack of interest in her company, I assumed a tough stance for the sake of our children, considering how the assets would be divided. As the divorce proceedings unfolded, I was surprised to find her accompanied by her new boyfriend. This perplexed me, as I believed the court only required the involvement of the married individuals and their representatives. Nevertheless, I proceeded without questioning, and my legal representative asserted that she had committed adultery, making her undeserving of any of my assets. She responded with unnecessary tantrums, insisting on claiming what was rightfully mine. Disappointed by her greed and selfishness, I questioned her priorities, especially regarding the future of our children. Despite my initial disappointment, things took an unexpected turn when she attempted to tarnish my name on social media. Strangely, it backfired, and her new boyfriend ended up exposing the incriminating content, severing ties with her. I later discovered that he had returned to his home country, leaving her with nothing. Unbeknownst to her, she had unknowingly signed the 75% under our children's names, thinking it was awarded to me. Despite feeling a twinge of sympathy, I couldn't help but believe that karma was taking its course, dealing with her harshly. I returned to my family's house and asked for forgiveness, as my mother, known for her kindness, welcomed me warmly. My reputation was tarnished and my business failed, losing 25% of its value. Although 75% remained intact, they were no longer registered in my name. My life turned into chaos, which led me into a state of depression and, eventually, to alcohol consumption. My mother urgently called me, revealing the extent of the situation and urging me to come home. Despite my initial reluctance, considering the recent conflicts over asset division, I yielded to my mother's plea. Witnessing Rachel's distress, I decided to help, not out of personal desire, but due to my mother's request and the impact on my children. It was revealed that Rachel had been residing in my family home for 6 months, a fact my mother had kept from me to avoid my disapproval. Despite my animosity towards Rachel, I acknowledged the necessity of intervening for the sake of our children. Following my mother's advice, I took Rachel to recover in a Texas rehab facility. The 9-month rehabilitation proved successful, restoring Rachel to the person I once loved. Despite her apologies and revelations about an abusive relationship with the young athlete who had deceived her and caused her company's downfall, I remained indifferent. My focus was on ensuring she became a responsible mother to our children. Although forgiveness was extended, I made it clear that a romantic reunion was not an option. The only connection between us was our shared responsibility for our children. Once assured of Rachel's recovery, I assigned her a role as CEO at her marketing agency, which now belonged to our children. I emphasized the need for her to find a new place to live, maintaining boundaries to prevent her from getting too comfortable in my family home. While she could visit the children, it was established that she wouldn't live with them. Reflecting on my actions, I moved forward from the past, focusing on the present and future. I question whether my handling of the situation was appropriate and if helping Rachel, despite her past actions, was the right decision.
That's the end of the story. Can you call it a happy ending? Why did the main character continue to communicate with the one who betrayed him? Would there be any way to avoid cheating? What advice can you give? Share your opinion in the comments, as well as like and subscribe to the channel so as not to miss new interesting stories. Good luck.